The Soul Logistic Radio Show is sponsored in part by True Love and Life Ethiopian Coffee, made with the original Ethiopian coffee bean. For more information, go to roundtable.health. Well. Greetings and welcome to the Soul Logistic Radio Show podcast. I'm your host, Doug Evans, the unknown icon. Some folks call me Hannibal Smith. Got the minister of information, the straw that stirs the drink. Fat Tommy, what's poppin', yo?
What's going on, Hannibal Smith? How are you, good brother? And I see you brought the legend himself. You got the legend on the show.
I brought my true school teacher. I went and dug down and got the man, Bill McGee. What's up, man? What's up, family? My best friend, Bill.
What's up? We're not gonna tell that story today.
You can tell the story. Let's keep it a buck.
I was going to start with what kind of student was Doug. Forget the whole. I was going right. Once you told me you was his teacher, I want to start with how was he in school?
Doug tried to get me fired, man. I'm telling you, Doug was acting like a knucklehead in class, and I picked up a ruler, I think it was, and threw it at him. Right? Uh-huh. And he ducked, and it hit a little girl.
You know, in the day,
you got skills. That one.
Yeah, he had the skills. He was ducking, and the little girl got hit. I had to call the girl, mama, apologize, everything.
Oh Lord!
Can you imagine the day's time? What that would have been like?
That would have been assault.
Oh man! Assault. First of all, the kids would have had me on videotape throwing it.
Yeah,
it was all viral. You know, them taking me out in handcuffs and everything.
Yeah, simple assault.
I could have made some money off that.
Yes, sir.
On TikTok or something. So last night the Grammys had they celebrated 50 years of hip hop. So of course this morning there's plenty of complaining to go around of who was and who wasn't there. Coming from their own history of the Sugar Hill Records, first of all, let the fans know the part you played in some of that Sugar Hill Records saga.
Well, Doug, you were a part of that history, believe it or not, and a lot of people don't know this. I was telling a couple of people last night, because when I saw the list, I put it on Facebook, and I ranted and raved about the fact that nobody from Sugar Hill was represented. Sharrock from Funky Four was there.
Shout out to Sharrock.
Yeah, but other than that. But look, Doug, here's what I was telling Jaquan. I said, Jaquan, I was a substitute teacher at a PE teacher at Westview Elementary. And the little girls, Fat Tommy, were out there doing Funk You Up, right? They were like on the field going, we're going to funk you. And they might have substituted the other F word or may not, but they was over, and these some of Doug's classmates, right? And so they gonna funk you right on up. And I'm going like, hold on, y'all can't say that. Y'all can't be saying that. So I ended up they kept doing it, right? So I took them to the office, right? And I said, these little girls out here using words they're not supposed to be using in elementary school. Well, a week later, my boy called me and said, hey man, we got a recording session up in Inglewood, and I need you to get there, be here. We got a recording session. So I drove my motorcycle up to Inglewood, and we recorded Freedom that day. Now, here's the trick story. Of course, Cheryl the Pearl and Blondie and all of them were the crowd people with Sylvia, right? So they were all we were doing the party noise. Doug, the PE whistle I had, I let Sylvia use it for the party noise. So she was playing that whistle on all of the Freedom and all the other stuff like that. And I was in there with Sequence. The week before that, I had just put these kids, taking them to the office for doing the tune by Sequence. And I'm going like, man, it's just not surreal that I'm recording with the kids. Cause Funk You Up was like
Yeah,
Sugar
that
Hill.
was a record. Yes.
That was their second hit.
Yeah.
You know, first it was Rapper's Delight, and then Funk You Up, and then Freedom.
Yep.
Okay.
What the hell you come in here for? I'm Blind Deep, Bad as Soul Mother. I'm So Battle Rock, Mac Chuck Turner. I'm the golden girl you never had. You know my name is Super Bad. Yeah.
You know it. You know it.
Whoa. That Tom is on it this morning.
Well, because it's a couple of things about it. First of all, I take exception to them calling hip hop 50 years old. And the reason I do is because simply that's almost like saying Jesus was born in December. We really don't know. It's great to pick that Sedgwick Avenue date and call it that. So when I teach my class, I start with the recorded history of hip hop. So I think when we're talking about 1973, we're talking about when it's in the infancy, inside the incubator. It doesn't birth hip hop until a record is made. Like, we can't talk about hip hop before records were made. So when they say this, I go with it because I know that's a generally accepted date. But really, we should really stick to the facts of when it actually birthed a record, not when me and you were in our backyard throwing a party, and because Doug played a break, all of a sudden that's the beginning of hip hop. So I live with it because everybody else does, but I don't really follow that.
Fat Tommy, when I talk to my students, I make a distinct difference between hip hop, the culture, and rap. And I make them understand that hip hop, the culture, was what I love so much about New York. And a lot of people didn't realize that. I was up at a family reunion, Prospect Park, about right before the pandemic. And everybody was back out in the park, man. There were families here, there were Hispanics here, there were Italians there, there were Jews here, Black folk there, and they were playing music. The kids were dancing, and I was trying to tell people. I said, "This is what hip hop was. This was the culture, the dancing." My cousin lived in Hollis, and the ballpark was right next door to his. Where LL and them did their thing was right next door to his house. So he would let them use the power from his window. You know, he'd throw extension cord out there and let them use it. And you would go by and you'd see all the elements of hip hop. Because I have my students explain to me, well, what are the elements of hip hop? You know what I'm saying? Because nowadays, breakdancing, you know, a lot of these kids, man, 18-year-olds, you know, I say, any of y'all breakdance? Because I tried to get somebody to do some spins up in the room.
You're crazy.
You know, I'm going like, come on, y'all got to know the culture of hip hop and what hip hop was all about, because it was that nature that a lot of people lost sight of, which was what brought communities together. You know, and that's what you were talking about, Tommy, which is that culture that brought communities together and everything else. The rap industry, of course, started at a whole different time. Yeah. You know, and so if they want to say 78, 79, 77, 78, 79, when Enjoy, because a lot of people got to understand is when we talk about King Tim III and we talk about Rapper's Delight, you got to give Bobby Robinson credit. Yeah. For the stuff he did on Enjoy before any of that. Yeah. Because none of that stuff blew up. But the story I like to tell everybody is that the Freedom was actually supposed to be for Starsky. And I wrote out the music. I have the music for the horn parts, for Freedom somewhere here in the house. And I'm going to dedicate it one day to the hip hop or the Rap Hip Hop Hall of Fame. Because on the music, it says Starsky. It does not say Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. Starsky wouldn't sign the deal with Sylvia and them. So she went and worked Flash and them away from Bobby. I don't know what the deal was. You know, all I know is that they came up in there and said, let's make it happen. They was rolling up in there hard saying, hey, we're going to do this. So we recorded Freedom, say like on a Monday or a Tuesday. And we had a recording session at Rock's Platinum Factory up in Brooklyn, where he had the recording studio. When they did the Bed-Stuy development, they gave this brother some money. He had a tight recording studio right there in the Bed-Stuy development. And we were going in there to do a recording that Friday or Saturday. And as we were walking across the street, now remember we recorded this joint Monday and Tuesday. As we were walking across the street, we heard it playing on the radio.
What?
We're going like, and that, you know, ain't that the joint we just did?
Oh,
Man,
snap.
like, what? How do you, I mean, the Robinson had that kind of pull, man, that
Wow.
they
All
were,
right, Peter Sylvia Robinson, godmother of hip hop, I would say.
yeah.
I call her.
I
The
think
mother.
I think
But we
I think the
discussed hip
Grammy
hop.
I think the Grammys should show her a lot more love. That's what one thing I feel was missing with the celebration.
I don't see how you can
Sylvia's not.
talk about hip hop without mentioning, without paying tribute, without giving homage, without bowing down to Sylvia Robinson. But what happens is, in my humble opinion, this great nation that we live in practice taking from us. See, if they start talking about Sylvia Robinson, then that they now again big up the black woman. So they have to take from her. So when they start talking, they skip all of that and rush all the way forward to Russell Simmons. Like you rush past a whole lot. You know, think about the records. You're talking about Run Them. You really late. I mean, you definitely late when you start saying Run DMC. There was plenty of music out long before there was a Def Jam and a Run DMC. Not to take anything from them, but I really believe that we need to look at the recorded history, big up the recorded history, and then pay homage to Sylvia and what she did, because she took it and really pushed it, because a lot of people had hip hop records, but she kept it all together and kept going. You know, a person would have a record here because, you know, it's New York. They had the press factories. So people would make records, but not to the level, not to the professionalism. She did it with a professional. She got it on radio. You know, she run around. Think about how hard it had to be for her to get that record played. First of all, you're talking about an independent record that went national. Let's just look at that a minute. An independent record from an art form that doesn't
That's crazy.
exist
Yeah.
went national, was played on all radios across the country. And we don't run around and praise her like, oh my God, the mother of hip hop. She birthed it out of her business. So that's where I think we should begin.
Well,
always.
See, Tommy, to me, if they wanted to be real and they got some beef against Sylvia and Joe, then at least they could go with Bobby Robinson, because Bobby was the person who gave a lot of the acts the first step into the record business. And then they could go with people that Bobby recorded, and then they could do King Tim III with the Fatback Band. I mean, if I was King Tim, I'd be pissed. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Because to be honest with you, there's a big argument as to whether or not his record was before Rapper's Delight.
Well, his record was before
I think it was. I heard it before Rapper's Delight.
His record was, I believe, in March. I'd have to look at my notes, but when I teach it, because I teach hip hop over at VCU, so when I teach it, King Tim III was definitely first. But
I heard it first.
When you look at it, I don't really count it as I say it was first, but I say that they already had a band. They gave an artist an opportunity to spit because somebody had to knock the wall down. Once they proved it could be put on a record, then Sylvia Robinson snatched that up and said, okay, now we got to go. So he did rap, yes. But when we look at rap and how it takes place today, a lot of the music was from the early days was like a sample or pre-made, not really a sample because they replayed the music, but it was someone else's music under most of the early hip-hop records.
Right. Well, but check this out though. Here's the distinction. First major label rap release was King Tim III. Polydor, Fatback Band was on Polydor. It was the first major label. Sylvia and Joe had an indie label.
Yes.
Major labels weren't touching hip hop or rap. Fatback Band and them took a chance and put that thing on the B side. And I still say I would be real ticked off. Like I'm ticked off. A lot of people don't know this. I was still ticked off for the group Freedom out of the way, because a lot of people never knew that that song that we recorded, which was probably one of the most classic hip hop records ever recorded, because it was all live. All the horns, we played them joints all live, 2 or 3 different, but that group, that record is basically exactly the way the group Freedom did it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people to this day don't even know there was a group called Freedom. And the song was Get Up and Dance, right? The original title, because we did it again.
Yeah.
We did it with Sequence. And I think it was called Get Up and Dance, because we also did the same record kind of sort of with Sequence. And but those are the things and things like that. All the Rappers Delight stuff was recorded live. Mm-hmm. So as we get, but Doug, the story I love.
Well,
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. You go ahead. Well, just the part about Fatback. Probably they don't get the props because it wasn't actually a rap group. Before even Fatback, every now and then you can hear somebody rap on a song a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
It was hip hop.
If you listen, if you really dig deep, there's a lot of people that hit a little rap in their songs. You can always go back to Millie Jackson, Blowfly, all these folks that drop some. You know what I'm saying? Betty Wright. You know what I'm saying?
I give you a better one than that, because I'm gonna let somebody know that. But Here Comes the Judge. Here Comes the Judge is one of the tunes that everybody got to go back and check. And to be honest with you, I'm actually redoing a version of that. So if y'all steal my version, I want it known that I said it first here on the Soul Logistics radio show that I'm doing a remake of Here Comes the Judge. That was a rap tune.
There was a lot.
That's what I mean.
I can find people rapping on records as far back as the 50s. I mean, I can go all the way back. So when I in the first beginning of my book, I say, like every other art form, there really is no true beginning or end to this art form. But when we come forward and we start talking about rappers with a turntable, see, when we start talking hip hop, I kind of have to have the turntable involved. So that's why I don't really count. I give Fatback credit because that's the first time I remember when I first heard it. I had the album, but that was hip hop's first feature. Like he was. They said, "Hey, let's bring him out. This is what the kids is doing. Let's bring this young man out and give him an opportunity." And then he never did anything past that. That's the other part that really messes it up for King Tim, because he did that feature and vanished. Like we can never. Even I was talking to Jaquan about him, and Jaquan can't find him. Like when the hip hop historian can't find him, but I don't write him out of history. I say his record came first, but Sugar Hill's record, Rapper's Delight, was nonstop rap. They took the right song because the song they used was already a hit. They took the right music, right song, put it together, and everything had to gel and come together to make it its first commercially. Now, I say commercially successful hip hop record. That's what I listed as. When I teach the class, I say Sugar Hill Gang, Rapper's Delight is the first commercially successful hip hop record. I say Curtis Blow was the first hip hop artist signed to a major label.
Right.
Because they went with the intent of putting out a hip hop record. See, I don't think Fatback Band wasn't a hip hop group. The label didn't go out with the intent of putting that out. To them, it was just another record on the album. See, Sylvia Robinson had the intent of making hip hop, well, what we now know as hip hop music, for the purpose of hip hop. Everybody else did it kind of dilly-dallying and touching it. Even when you look at Enjoy, I give it to him because he basically, I say he was the he signed them to deals and then got upstreamed to Sugar Hill Records, because she basically, Sugar Hill Records was a
I'm trying to figure out what was that record on Enjoy. It was Grandmaster rapping, something rapping was on Enjoy.
That's when they first put out the Grandmaster Flash was signed to Enjoy first. As a
Right.
matter of
What he
fact, the
said?
verse
What he
I
said?
think come his message verse is on the Enjoy label first.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
Sylvia Robinson, after the first year, started signing people to artists to licensing deals. She started getting all the rappers putting out Rap Volume One, Rap Volume Two.
Let's make sure we give credit where credit is due.
Okay.
A lot of people don't do this. Joey had a lot to do with that. Her son Joey Robinson.
Okay.
Mm.
He was the West. If you look on the West Street Mob, he's the taller one with the curly hair. Joey was in the street.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah,
Mark,
he was in
Mark,
this.
Mark Green and Joey and all those cats from Inglewood, and they were in the street. He was going to Fever. He was going to different clubs. He was coming back telling his mother what was
Right.
popping.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
Joey was in the street, hanging out in the clubs. Rich boy had money. Well, they didn't have as much money then until things started blowing up. But Joey was the reason. So Joey was the West Street Mob. I'm
He was
playing
the
on
A
the
and R.
whole West Street Mob album. And a matter of fact, they list me sometimes as a member of the West Street Mob when it was really my man that Warren Moore, who is standing with Joey on the front of that. Warren ended up going to Virginia State, Tommy. Believe it or
Oh.
not. Warren Moore ended up going to Virginia State. He's a state trooper down in North Carolina now. And Warren was the tall guy. He was like Joey's hype man. He wasn't a Flavor Flav. He was more like Jerome. He was Joey's hype man, right? He didn't really, I don't know if Warren rapped at all, but he was Joey's hype man. So he was on the album. Cindy Mizell was recording on that album. Cindy's famous for singing with. She's like the #1 background singer in the world. She sang with the Rolling Stones, Whitney Houston, all of that. Cindy was going to sing on that. Was singing on that, but would not sign the contract. So she's not on the cover of the West Street Mob. When I heard when I heard that on the radio, and I was listening to either A&T or somebody here, right? And I heard that too. I said, man, that doggone thing sounds familiar. And they said, that's the West Street Mob. I said, West Street Mob? I called my boy up who called me, Marvin Daniels, who called me to Inglewood to do the record. I said, Marvin, who is this West Street Mob joint that I hear? He said, that's you, fool.
Whoa. Was Angie Stone? Angie Stone somewhere was in on West Street Mob or something?
And Cheryl Pearl even more. This is why I always get upset, because they don't give Cheryl Cook credit for any of this. But Cheryl Pearl was sequenced with Sylvia's right-hand girl. And Cheryl calls herself the first hip-hop A&R artist because she would go with Joey and they would check different artists out and go like, Sylvia, you need to sign them. Or Sylvia, we need to do a record on them. Cheryl is like still out there on Facebook. I'm always hyping her up because she's fighting for Sequence to get the respect that they're supposed to get. First thing you do is mention Angie Stone, and everybody go, "Oh, that was Angie B with Sequence." Yeah, but Cheryl and Blondie and Angie were like, I'm still telling, and I told Jaquan, I said, Jaquan, they're the first female rap group. They're not the first female rap group to have a hit record. There were some other female groups out of Brooklyn that had records out with Bobby and some of the other early rap labels, but they never had a hit that got played on the radio. Sequence Funk You Up was the first girl rap record. I don't take none from Salt and Pepper, Latifah, MC Light, any of them. But you cannot keep ignoring the sequence.
Right.
Well,
you can't
come to my class.
Huh?
Yeah.
You should come to my class. That's exactly how I teach it. I teach it just like that. I teach it exactly like that with sequence. I have a whole section on sequence and how in the beginning of hip hop, we had everything. We had a biter, We had a biter come because Buddy bit, so everything was in the beginning. We had shady contracts. We had women. We had everything that's there today. We had ghostwriters because I saw Cheryl Pearl on the interview. She told me she wrote all this. No, she didn't tell me.
She
But
wrote
she
a lot
told
of
me
stuff.
via YouTube that she wrote a lot of those verses. Like she said, I wrote that. She was listing the records that she wrote on. I was like, whoa, okay.
So did she tell you the story? Did you hear the story about how they got signed with Sylvia?
Yes, I did.
They basically challenged the Sugar Hill Gang. The Sugar Hill Gang was on tour in South Carolina, and they busted up backstage and challenged the Sugar Hill Gang. Said they whack. We can do that better than them, and we can sing. We can sing as well as we can rap. And I think they busted up Funk You Out. We're gonna funk you up right there on the scene for Sylvia. They made it up off the head. And then funk you up right there for Sylvia. Sylvia flew them to New York in a week, and they cut that record. Now that's the thing that people don't know about Sylvia and Joe Robinson. And I won't get into the deep, shady side of their connections to the mob, but they were connected to the mob. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
but the thing that everybody didn't know about
had to be connected to the
they didn't know about Sylvia and Joe was Sylvia and Joe had all of the mechanisms to put a record out within 1 week.
Man.
And they had distribution.
That's crazy.
All over the world.
Ooh.
All over the world that they could FedEx Express, fly a record, a plate, a lacquer, or either the tape to Europe. And it'd be there the next day. And a week later, this record be on sale in Europe. As you know, Rapper's Delight sold more copies in France than it did in the United States.
Crazy.
Rapper's Delight was a huge hit in France.
I cut you off the story you was going to tell. Let me let you get that story in before we forget. Or was that the story you was going to tell?
About
whatever. I thought I cut you off. You said you had a story you wanted to tell.
I got a whole bunch of stories I'm telling.
But Joe, right, real quick about Joey, not Joe, but Joey. Was it Joey to try to get another Sugar Hill gang? Did he create his own Sugar Hill gang?
He didn't try to. He did. What I got to. I got.
He did some Temptations type stuff, right?
No. It was worse than that because they own the name. See, the Temptations. Otis kind of owned the name of the Temptations after a while, but Joey and the Robinson family owned the name Sugar Hill. So when Master G and them fell out, Joey hit the road with Hank and Wonder Mike. And I have a picture when they were here at Amani's. I have pictures with me, Hank, Wonder Mike, and Joey when they were here at Amani's doing Sugar Hill. Because Master G was the one that got out of Dodge first. And
when they got back together with Master G, got back together with Wonder Mike, Joey put his own group together with no original members and went out on the road.
Yeah, well, he owned the name. They sued him for that, and he owned the name. But you know, the tragedy of all that thing is, man, all the Robinsons have passed away, but one of them. There's one son.
Leland.
Leland's the only one that's still alive.
Okay.
Out of all of that.
So we've been talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly. I know you got to get out of here soon, but if you could give a summary of the good, the bad, and the ugly of hip hop, coming from day one, what would you say, Mr. McGee?
You call me Dollar Bill, dude. You know
Dollar Bill, y'all.
You keep forgetting that's Dollar Bill. That Fat Time everyone knows that did.
Dollar Bill, y'all.
Dollar Bill, y'all. So look, the good, the bad, and the ugly would be that the artists just really didn't understand the music business like today. You know, they didn't understand the music industry. They didn't understand publishing. They didn't understand split sheets. They didn't understand how to protect their own rights. So a lot of the stuff that happened was real sketchy. as far as what your ownership is down the line, or how much of your own creative work you own. That was the bad. The ugly part about it was that a lot of those acts never got paid, never got the money they were supposed to get. But they had some good experiences. The other ugly part about it is the session musicians, all of us. I tell people today, like Doug Wimbush and Skip and Keith LeBlanc and all of us who did the music, the chops horn section, we got paid $75 per person per song. So every time I hear that, or Apache, even Apache's worse there, because Apache's like, come on, talking out the side of your neck almost. I mean, it's like if you go somewhere and they don't play Apache, they're not having a party. Right?
You know, BBD just released a record using that same sample.
Well, I got paid $75. And and that's the ugly part of it, that people don't realize you can put your talent on something and be featured. Like on Freedom, when people hear that, they're hearing me, because I was the lead trumpet player. And they put my part like right on top of the record. And every time when SWV when they used to play the SWV joint, I just be smiling, going cha-ching, cha-ching. $75.
Wow. Hey, tell us about what you had, 804 Music Group. Talk to us about that.
Well, you know, I was doing hip hop back in the day. Fat Tommy and I, we were trying to make some things happen here in the Richmond area for sure, where I worked with Super Friends, and Danger was a student of mine, and so at high school, and when I started that Kennedy Showcase talent show joint, all of the guys, basically Skills and Danger and all the guys, came through my talent show that I had. And I always like to tell everybody this, Doug, try to slip it in. When we did the Kennedy talent show, Doug, I modeled it after the Follies in Petersburg. I tried to tell everybody that. I tell everybody, I said, the Follies in Petersburg was the model for the Kennedy talent show. I'm not trying to take credit from nobody, because the Petersburg Follies used to do 2 nights or 3 nights.
Crazy.
But it was always packed.
It was crazy.
They always did live music. Everybody had a band that was cranking, and everybody had to come up and bring their best game. And that's what I did at Kennedy. I had a band, and you would come up and bring your best game. We limited the number of dancing acts, because you know, high school talent shows, usually you got a bunch of girls that want to dance and stuff. So no, I'm not doing but 2 of them the whole show. We limited the number of rap acts, only rap groups. So we did like 4 to 6 rap acts spread out throughout the show. And then all the rest of it was singing. So it was like a combination of, you always got good music. And the Follies used to do that. They always knew how to kind of spread it out. But here's the story. We did it at Kennedy for 3 years. The first year, a girl said, Mr. B, why are we doing it 2 nights? I said, it's going to be so nice, we got to do it twice. You know the old school thing. So then we did it at Kennedy. The first night, we had about 500 or 600 people, in the auditorium hold 500. The next night, we had 900 people. I mean, Whoa. The first night, the principal looked at me like I was crazy. So after the 3rd year, she said, Mr. McGee, I think you've outgrown the school. You've got to go somewhere else with this, right? So, because I mean, people tried to break into school to get into the talent show. So we took it to the mosque. And for 3 years in a row, we sold the mosque out. 3,330 something seats. No other talent show in the history of the state of Virginia, no other high school talent show has ever been that successful in the history of the state of Virginia. Wow. And D'Angelo was on the show every year. Mad Skills was on the show every year. When you start going down the list, Sean Chappelle was on the show every year. Kia Bennett, people who are now still doing it in this area musically came through my talent show. All right.
Hey, you should do a documentary just on your students.
Yeah, Gerard, producer Gerard, My
Gerard
man,
Thomas.
Gerard Thomas. What's my man name that wrote for Luther? That was in the band with Gerard.
Oh, he's out in L.A. now. I can't call
Yeah. He wrote "Dance with My Father" for Luther. He was in that group. I mean, we go down the list, man, of all of these cats who are in their late 40s now that came up. They came up through that talent show. But the thing I said is, listen to this. We had 3 years of sold out performances at the largest auditorium in Richmond, and we never had a fight. We never had one violent act. You know the worst thing that happened? Somebody kicked in the side door window because the joint was sold out and they wanted to get in so bad that they kicked the window in, and the lady made me pay for the window being replaced.
You made enough money.
That was the only thing that ever happened negative. And that's what the hip hop thing was. People used to say, and I told Danger and Mike Street this the other day. And it's one of the things I take pride in having worked with kids from all over. That's the old teacher thing in me. The police told me, said, Bill, you know, the Super Friends have helped keep Richmond quieted as far as the gang and crime thing of guys going after each other. And I said, tell me why. He says, because you got kids from every side of town, east side, east end, north side, south side. Lonnie was from south side. Disorganized, Lil Rock, and Ahmed, all of them, Running Ray, all of the guys from north side, Joe Dozier, all of those guys, man, we had kids from all parts of town who were brothers, who were on the same rap label, who were working together. And it was not a competition about you from Southside, y'all ain't all this. You know, it wasn't that. And the guys never realized the fact that we never had a territorial beef in Richmond, Tommy. You remember that because you were all up in the middle of it.
Yeah. There was. I used to tell people all over the world that Virginia, we never had those kind of problems. Really, we didn't have gang problems. Really, we only had a drug problem. If you take drugs out the mix, we didn't have no problems. Even the football games, everything. We grew up Skateland. Everybody went to Skateland over South Side, then the Skateland in the East End. We didn't have those kind of problems.
Polo Bay, Ivory. Yep. I was just telling somebody the other day, I was telling them, we're trying to do something for the young folks, trying to find a place to do a day party for young people. And we were going like, y'all remember when y'all used to be up in Polo Bay and the kids would come back to school telling me they were at Ivory. I said, what you doing up in Ivory? You're not
2001. Remember 2001?
Yeah,
I was 17 at the time. They would let us in 2001 and we could party in there till 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night.
And then you had to take your butt home.
But and then the adults come in. They had the team parties and then they had the adults.
That's right. But there was no, like you hit it dead on the head. And most of the drug cats kept to their own neighborhood.
Right.
So, but the thing is, like at Kennedy where I was, and I ended up teaching, I happened to teach at George Wythe one class. When we put the studio in over at George Wythe, Tommy, and they made it the School of the Arts. I taught at George Wythe in the morning, and I taught at Kennedy in the evening. And the cool thing was we had kids from Blackwell who were tight buddies with kids from Mosby, kids from Wickham, kids from Creighton, kids from Fairfield, Hillside, Gilpin. All of those kids were very closely related to one another. And so we didn't have that kind of beef. So Doug, all the things, I'm really, really proud of the fact that 804 Music and the Super Friends and all of the people that I work with, all of that whole history was a history of true hip hop. It's hip hop. See, that's what I'm talking about. Hip hop is a culture. Hip hop is a culture. Rap, NWA, all that stuff, Ice-T, Schoolie D, all of that stuff that came up, that was a whole nother thing. Hip hop is a culture of kids getting together, breakdancing, tagging and graffiti, girls jumping rope, kids playing basketball, kids
beatboxing,
spitting, bands playing, keyboard scratching, DJs, all of that. But I know the story I was going to tell you real quick, Doug. We were in the studio. It's 1981 or 82, I think it was. Because, Tommy, when you teach about MIDI, and I teach about MIDI, and when MIDI came about, when drum machines and samples come out, I think I'm teaching 82, 83, all right? We were in the studio, and Reggie Griffin showed up, and Darryl Mitchell, who was one of the other keyboard players, he ended up being the music director for the OJs, but he played on all that stuff with us. They both showed up. One of them had a Prophet 5, and one of them had an Oberheim synthesizer, right? And those were the first synthesizers where you could play more than one note at a time. Before that, it was always a Moog, and all you could play is California type, Dr. Dre California type lines, one little line squirrel, Funky Worm, and all that stuff like that. But they came in with these joints where you could go with all these fingers, right? And I looked over there and I said, man, what the hell is that? And then the other dude had one, and then I looked at the horn section. I said, y'all, we just got fired. I'm straight up. We just got fired. And honestly, that dawn of era, a lot of kids, if they want to understand how the music has changed, you look into when drum machines and polyphonic synthesizers came out, samplers came a little bit later than that. Because originally the drum machines like the Roland 808 and those drum and the Akai drum machine, they were a little different from that. The MPCs came, and then came the samplers and all of that. But originally those keyboards, if you listen to Genius of Love, you listen to the Blondie tune, and then you listen to Grandmaster Flash and them, when you start hearing all the multiple synthesizer notes and stuff, we were out of here, man. We were out of here. They fired us. They stopped using, and I talked to a friend of mine who was with Climax at the time, Joyce Irby, because Joyce grew up here in the Richmond area, and then she ended up with Climax. And if you remember all that Climax stuff, they had it famous for them little tom turnarounds, right? The men all pause and meeting in the ladies' room. So I said, hey, Joyce, when you gonna hook a brother up with some horn stuff, right? When you gonna hook us up with some horn parts? She said, Bill, to be honest with you, live horns is the kiss of death nowadays. She said, live horns is the kiss of death. She said, nobody is using live musicians at this time in this part of the 80s. And Doug, I went and got a job.
McGee, let me ask you this. Couple of things. One, I want to thank you for everything that you've done for hip hop, and not just hip hop, but musically, because when I reach out and start talking to people, there's nobody when Doug said he was having Bill McGee, he didn't even know I knew you. He was like, everyone knows Bill McGee if you came in the music scene. But it's two things that I want to make you aware of. So I teach hip hop at VCU, and in 2025, February, I'm doing a live concert with the orchestra, doing hip hop music, and I have the students writing out the charts. So it's going to be really big in hip hop. So I'm gonna circle the wagons and get with you. But the thing that I wanted to ask you about is I'm trying to get VCU to move forward to the computer as an instrument.
Right.
Because my son is a producer and he plays the piano, but he plays every instrument if you give him a computer. So What do you think about the computer as an instrument? As a musician, what do you think about that?
Well, I use it all the time, and I have 5 albums out, and probably the first 3 albums were mostly sequenced using the computer as an instrument. We were doing MPCs at the time, but for mostly right now here in the studio where I am, everything is computer based. Let me throw that $1,000 microphone, be fooling around. Everything is computer based. I don't have any problem with the computer as an instrument. The thing I would tell all of my students, and I tell my grandson's doing exactly what your son's doing at Virginia State. And I tell them all, I said, try to incorporate your friends who play live instruments. Try to bring in a bass player. Try to bring in do what you're doing in the same groove and style, but try to incorporate the live instruments, because that a lot of people don't know that's how Tim and Missy were so successful. A lot of cats, Chris Beasley, a lot of guys from up this area used to go down there and play on tracks for Tim and Missy all the time. Right, I'm saying? And so you chopping it up in the computer, you getting this live, even if you get just a live lick, and then you decide to loop it and sample it, it was still played live.
Right.
So, and the computer then is doing it. I got a tune that I did. It's kind of interesting. I work with other artists as a horn arranger and a horn player. So I do a lot of, my side gig is I do a lot of sectional work for other people. You send me a song and I'll do the whole horn thing, like 16 tracks of horns, and then send the stems back to you and let you. So this last tune, somebody sent me a tune called Stay that'll be out in the spring, features a girl. And I told my man, I said, I tell you what, I don't want to do it with the vocals. He sent me the instrumental track, and I just started playing horn lines and arranging different horn lines for him, Tommy. And like at the beginning, bam, and I play like 16 different parts, trombone, all these different horns I got back here, I play them. And I sent him just the stems, never having, I just did different horn lines for him. And I say, here, you take this and chop it up the way you would do it if it was a sample.
Right.
All right. And he sent it back to me, man. It was amazing. Because look, I don't remember playing none of that, man. He sent it back and I heard the horn lines here. Because he would take just one, bam, and then go and find another line, bam. And he do it just like he was chopping up samples. And I said, oh man, this is different. Because I wasn't playing with the girl. I was playing with the track.
Right.
And I let him do the arranging of how he wanted to place the horn. So again, that's another creative way to use the computer as an instrument and as an arranger. You get somebody to come in and just play guitar all the way through the song, right? And then you chop it up and you put the guitar parts where you want. It's a mix of both real acoustic live music feel and everything else. I think it's the best of both worlds. You see what I'm saying? Because now you got the flexibility that you can move stuff around like it was sampled, but it's not like you got to pay any royalties for this because this is stuff that you actually created.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're moving in that direction, man. Matter of fact, Tommy and Doug, this is the same horn that I used to play Freedom on. I have not had a new horn since 1977.
Whoa.
And I said to myself, when I go, either I want this in my casket or I'm gonna donate it to the to the Hall of Fame, Hip Hop Hall of Fame. That say,
okay.
This is the horn that all the Sugar Hill stuff was played on back in the day. I hope they don't get it for another 25 years though.
Right. Hey. Go ahead, Tommy.
Just to really, I want to reach back to the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the reason why I want to reach back a second is because everything that Mr. McGee said happened in the 70s. Everything he said happened in the 80s. It's still happening in the 2000s. What I mean by that is you still got studio musicians underpaid. You still got artists that are unaware of what a split sheet is and what their publishing is. You still have people still being taken advantage of as if it were 1970. So the good is that there are a lot more opportunities. The bad and the ugly is that those of us who now got in it that look like us, we got in and did the exact same thing that the other man did to us. Instead of changing the game, we adopted the rules that they played by. And so now we're shortchanging people for publishing. We're not giving them split. Instead of educating them saying, yo, you know you get publishing. Instead of telling them, hey, sign a split sheet, we're taking advantage of them. So that's the ugly of it that I still see to exist.
Tommy, let me tell you, it's even worse than that. And it's worse than what you said, but you exactly right. I had a student at Virginia State in one of my classes, and she was telling me, a girl that was doing beats, right? She was freshman girl doing her own beats, man. Had her own. I mean, she was cranking them. Had YouTube stuff. And she says, "I'm leasing these." I said, "What the hell do you mean you're leasing a beat?" She says, "Well, I'll let you use it for a period of time for this amount of money." I said, "Well, let me ask you a question. If I use your beat and I have a hit record, and then somebody else comes back and uses, and you lease it to somebody else, and what is that going to do for my rights as far as the record that I have that's a hit?" I mean, kids don't understand when they start talking about leasing beats. First of all, Tommy, you know this true. I got to come talk to your class. And when I get another one of those classes like I used to teach, I'll have you come talk. But here's what the kids don't understand. And this is what I've been explaining to a lot of people in general. Every entity in the recording industry has a role. There's a publisher, but there's also an arranger. There's also a contractor. There's also your musicians. There's also the producer and the engineer and the co-producer. Everybody has a role. Just because you made a beat on a drum machine or in your computer does not make you a producer.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? The kids talking about, well, I produced that. I said, well, who did the lyrics? Who did the verses? They're going like, I just sent him the beat. And what the heck did you didn't produce it? You might have arranged it. You might have been the section musician that played the drum part. If I bring a drummer in and he plays a beat and a bass player in and he plays a bass line, they don't go back saying they produced the song.
No.
You see what I'm saying? They don't. So a lot of our roles have been screwed up. But Tommy, let me go one step further into what you said about the bad and the ugly. Hey, Doug, this ain't even got no good in it. This is the bad and the ugly. Streaming, Spotify, YouTube, Apple, all of that. The Antichrist. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, seriously, that stuff is so crazy. The royalties that you're getting, if it wasn't for the creation of the MLC recently, in the last 3 years, and if it wasn't for Sound Exchange, a lot of people don't understand something, man. You know that right now, we're probably going to have to go on strike, Tommy, against Spotify as artists. Artists are probably going to have to say, take all my music off of Spotify, take all my music off of Pandora, take my music down until y'all pay us more money. All right. Remember, Prince didn't play that. Prince was not down with it. Same thing for YouTube. The money, this is for all your audience. The money that people get paid for streaming a record is slavery, slave wages.
It's not slave, it's worse than that.
Worse than slave wages. You know what I mean? Because at least they used to feed the slaves or something like that. Right now, anybody that's trying to make a living in the music industry off of streaming something and releasing it, it's a joke.
Well, here's the deal. If you're a streaming artist, the average YouTube pays the most. And YouTube pays 0.00014. So that's like 1/100th of a penny. Now, it takes 1,500 streams to equal one album sale. And off of that one album sale, your royalty is 0.00014. Now, when you say Spotify, the problem or the challenge that they're going to have is Spotify is owned by all the majors. Warner Brothers, Universal, and Sony got together and created Spotify. Spotify is owned by all the major record companies. So the minute you sign with a Warner Brothers, once you sign with a major, you've given up your rights. You can forget about it because the majors is who is then in turn sharing in the advertisement money because they're not even looking at the streaming money. They're splitting when you're at Warner Brothers is splitting the advertisement money with Sony and Universal. So the artist is getting gypped from that. But even to go you one better, I saw Terrence Howard who broke it down. Terrence Howard said when
Yeah.
he was in the movie, remember he said I played the
That's
movie.
right.
They signed the song to that artist, so I didn't get
Yeah.
no royalty.
Right.
Like so, the
Crazy.
whole system is set up to rob the artist. That's just a fact. It's always been that way. Right back with the advent of sheet music, they started stealing with sheet music. They kept it going with the phonograph. They kept it going with the cassette. They kept it going with the CD, and now they're keeping it going with streaming.
Well, people got to realize that the MLC is one of the areas where they can make money. But Tommy, let me give you one other key. Another area where people can make money is if you get your record placed on Sirius XM.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why, because even like I have 5 jazz albums out, and Sirius XM is where you're gonna make the real money, because their royalty rate is based upon the number of subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
So then if you got something that's getting played on Sirius, you probably are going to get some money if you're the writer. Now,
Right.
remember the same thing, you got to be splitting those writer royalties, and you may have signed a publishing deal. It's like everybody, Tommy, I'll tell you what, Doug, Tommy, this is the thing we got to do. Because I talked about it with Plunky, I'll talk about it with you. We got to have our own music business seminar here in the Richmond area, where we can bring people in, artists in, bring young people in, and get them to come and listen and learn from people that know what they're talking about, so that they don't get caught up in this stupidity. If VCU wants to sponsor it, fine. If we want to do it some kind of way, we got to have a music business seminar. Almost like they used to do Jack the Rapper back in the day and some other things like that.
Yeah.
We got to have a seminar where kids can come in and talk to a Fat Tommy, or talk to a Bill McGee, or talk to somebody else, a Say, or talk to somebody who's been in the business that can talk to them. Because the other thing they don't understand, Tommy, is the thing that you do better than anybody else in this area, which is promotion. Nobody, no artist that I know of coming out to shoot understands promotion and marketing. They don't understand it. They don't know what it does, how it works, why it's important. They used to see street teams because you were famous. Y'all had famous street teams. They used to see that. But you can't you can't put a 4x6 on my computer screen and say, yo, man, here, come on, this is my mixtape. Check it out. You can't do that. So there's a lot of things that has to take place, man. Tommy, I had a new single out. I have a new single out. I redid Donald Byrd. Let me tell you this real quick, Doug, and I know we may run out of time, but I know y'all know how to edit too.
Is that flight time?
Yeah, the new single, Flight Time. Okay. That was Donald Byrd's big record 50 years ago. I did it because I always looked up to Donald Byrd, because he, like myself, was a trumpet player educator. And he went to Howard and started that program. If you look at the history, man, Donald Byrd educated Herbie Hancock when he was 19. Donald Byrd pulled Herbie Hancock aside when he wrote Watermelon Man. He took Herbie Hancock to Mongo Santa Maria and got Mongo Santa Maria to record Watermelon Man, but he told Herbie, don't give up your publishing. He schooled Herbie Hancock from the early ages. And what happened is, when I did the last record I did was the Cantaloupe and Watermelon, which was a Herbie Hancock mashup of Cantaloupe Island and Watermelon Man. All right. And I talked about Donald Byrd on the documentary, and I didn't even realize that he and Herbie Hancock were down from the jump. Well, on this record, Flight Time, I have Kevin Toney, who was in the Blackbirds, on it. All right. And Donald Byrd, when he went to Howard, started the Blackbirds, because the album that came out 50 years ago was Donald Byrd, Blackbird. All right. And he started the group, the Blackbirds. And from that came all of, Rock Creek Park and all, Walking in Rhythm and all that stuff. Kevin Toney likes to remind me, because I always talk about Trussell and all this stuff right there. Kevin Toney reminds me that the Blackbirds were the first college band to have a hit record while they were in college. See, I was associated with Brick, with Trussell. We hung out with the Commodores, and there were other groups like that. All the college, the HBCU college band. Kevin Tony said, "Oh no, buddy, y'all had hit records after you finished college. We had a hit record in college, and we were the first to do that." So I was going to tell you, I got the flight time out, and the craziest thing in the world is a lot of the people in the record industry that are 50 and younger don't remember Donald Byrd's contribution to music. And that kind of like took me back, man. I'm still stunned right now. Because when I talked to them about Donald Byrd and Larry Mizell, who produced that record, man, Donald Byrd's Blackbird was one of the largest selling records on Blue Note history, Blue Note Records, because it was a contemporary forerunner to what everybody else calls contemporary jazz. That they were doing hip stuff way back, hip music parts 50 years ago. 50 years ago, Donald Byrd, Blackbird came out and was doing its thing. And I'm finding out that there's so much lack of institutional knowledge. When I mention Donald Byrd, they go like, yeah, I heard of him. And then I said, well, the Blackbirds, and they go like, yeah, what's that song they had? It's like, where you been? Or do you not know anything about the music business? You in the music business. But then I realized if you were 50 years old, you really didn't get turned on to music till you were like 15, 16, or 17. Usually at the earliest, you start listening seriously. So that means 15, 16 years after Blackbird came out is when you really started listening to music. So we got to educate people. We got to do a lot of educating, man, for people that are listening to you and everybody else. They got to start understanding where all of this stuff came from. And that's what I got.
Excellent. That's an excellent point. I have a question. Have you listened to Andre 3000's Flute album?
I've read all the stuff.
Good question, Tommy.
I've read all the stuff, and I'm afraid to listen to it, but I will. It's the top of my list of what to listen to. It's just that I've read so much crazy stuff. Like the last thing I read was he says he doesn't know anything about his notes and what he's playing.
I know, right?
He's just freestyling. That's what he says.
But here's the question. I don't even think that necessarily matters in the big scheme of music. Okay. And I don't play an instrument, so forgive my.
That's why you said that.
But to me, this is just my lack of understanding. But when I look at people like Miles Davis and all of them, and I remember them playing, he wanted you to jam with him. So you don't necessarily have to be able to read the music. You don't even necessarily have to know the notes. What I do notice about the music, because I listen to the album, it's pleasing to my ear.
Right.
So I want musicians to listen to it so I can find out. I want to have a conversation with somebody who is a musician as opposed to.
But it sounds more like sound effects than music. I had to be honest.
Well, that's why I'm afraid to listen to it, because I don't want to be overly critical. Because see, I come out of the Donald Byrd, Miles Davis school of, in some ways, I kind of like got this dichotomy going. I'm a trained musician with a degree in music. I've been studying music all these years. I'm still trying to learn how to play my horn and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I'm a creative person that just says, man, just roll with it. Like one of the tunes on my album, one of my students at Virginia State did. And when he was in my class, he played some of his stuff for me. It was on YouTube. And I said, hey, man, I love that. This goes back to what you're saying about Andre 3000, because he wasn't a musician per se, but he made music.
Right.
And so I said, hey, man, he said, Professor, I want you to hear some of my stuff. So I listened to it. I said, man, I love that, man. That's tight, man. And I was listening to it. I said, so I asked him questions about publishing and who, and I asked him all the questions to see if he knew anything. He didn't know none of that. So I said, later on, I said, hey, Myron, when you going to do a song for me? He said, well, I don't do jazz. I said, I didn't ask you to do jazz. I asked you to do a song for me. I'll do the jazz. You see what I'm saying? So there's a song on my album called Summers in Surrey. It's the number 3 song on the album. It's called Summers in Surrey that this student did for me. He sent me this beat. All right. Nice beat, man. I can hear so much potential in it. Going back to the Andre. He don't know what he played. He don't have a clue. Right. But it's cool. And I did my thing on it. And a lot of people say that's their favorite song on the album.
Wow.
Because
Okay.
it has both a hip hop, smooth grooves flow. Like when you get a chance to, Doug, listen to it, called Summers in Surrey. And it has that modern. I wanted the modern. I wanted something that I could flow over, right? So the name of it comes from this brother is from Surrey County, Virginia, down by the down Surrey. And I would ask him for stuff, and he's, it'd be the summer break. And he said, well, our internet not working too good right here. I got to go to the library in order to be able to send you something. And I said, man, Summers in Surrey must be hard, brother. So that's why we named the tune Summers in Surrey.
Well, I want you to listen for exactly those reasons, because I want a critical musician's ear to listen, because it's excellent for meditation for me when I meditate. And I think sometimes, like, let's say I never was trained to play the drums, but you gave me 2 sticks and I can play the drums and I can keep time. Does that matter? Like,
see,
that's
what I said. I'm with you. That's why I said I'm with you with the dichotomy, because I
want you to listen, because I hear what all the critics are saying.
Yeah, I will.
You can listen, and then you can sit back and get because you have to listen and you also have to feel. And that's the difference.
Let me tell you the story that goes along with what you said. I talk to Lonnie Liston Smith all the time. Lonnie and I have become phone buddies since the pandemic.
I want to do something special for him. I think Richmond we should do some kind of tribute while Lonnie is alive. We need to do something that says, yo, this is the man. Like, my God, this is the man.
Right. Well, I talk to him once, twice a month, all the time. We talk about different things. Lonnie Liston told me this story right here. He said Miles Davis called him up and wanted him to play with Lonnie. So he called him over to his house. And he had this keyboard. It was an organ type keyboard and everything else. And Lonnie sat down. He said, I'd never worked with it before. I'm playing it, or whatever. He said, yeah, I can do this. He said, can I take it home with me? Miles said, no. I just want you to create as we play on stage. Miles did exactly what you said. He wanted Lonnie to learn while he was creating. So I understand that if I step out of my music teacher, musician bag and listen to Andre's music for the value of what it does to a person, to somebody's soul, to somebody's spirit, it really does not matter whether me as a musician thinks it's technically correct, because that's not the point. People enjoy music. A lot of the hip hop stuff, man, what we call modally, we're in different keys. That they're playing this line that they sampled from John Coltrane, and they're playing another line they sampled from somebody else, and the stuff won't even be in the same key. And we've been going like, yeah, that ain't it. But they was grooving.
But it's funky, almost like what RZA did. RZA for Wu-Tang with his samples, the way he chopped the samples, people was like, man, it's not even on time. But if it's grooving, we can mess with it. We're gonna put a bow on this, man. I want to thank you, Dollar Bill. You've been an inspiration to a lot of MCs, a lot of musicians, and we really appreciate you, man. And we love you, man. And remember, people talk about award shows around here. Remember, we gave Bill McGee the 2010 Icon, the Solar Just Icon Award, right, yo?
That's 2010. I ain't got one since then. I'm just kidding.
And we might bring that back. I might bring that award show back, yo.
Give me a certificate or something. I don't know.
We already gave you the award, bro. Where's the award at? Is it back?
That was 13 years ago, man. Come on, man. Dude, hey, Tommy and Doug, thank you all very much, man. People keep music alive. Here's the thing I want to leave for everybody else and for all the young folks. I'm 72 years old. I feel like I'm 18 when I'm in this studio. I said, Tommy, you talking about computer and music? I tell my students, I said, y'all don't understand something. I feel like an 18-year-old when I'm sitting in here and I can do all this creating, right? I said, if I've been 18 with this joint right now, who knows, man? But the beautiful thing about music is you can stay in it until you're no longer here, right? And the beautiful thing about music is if you love it and you appreciate it, the Andre 3000 is great. Some of them artists they had on there the other night when we talked about the rap show, yeah. But I'm not hating. I'm not hating on. I tell everybody, do it because you love it. Study it. Study the history and study the technology and do all you can to make it better. Take it to the next level. Add the things you and I were talking about. Add the live instruments, the technology, the synthesizers, the computer. Take all the tools, right, that you have at your hand and make it work. That's why I feel so excited, because I got all these tools here, man. I got all these tools. I can sit here in my rocking chair. I can sit in my rocking chair and get busy and call up a brother, say, man, send me a piano line for this track. Because see, that's what everybody don't understand now is all the horn stuff I do it right here at my house and I send it to California. Najee is playing on my new album, and Najee sent me his music from Florida last Christmas. A year ago, he did the track from Florida. He said, man, I'm going to London tomorrow. I'm going to get this done. And we were on the phone on Christmas Day, back and forth, send me the track. Tom Brown sent me his music from North Carolina. Kevin Toney, the Blackbird, sent me his music from California. Freddie Fox, the guitar player, sent me his music from California. This is a worldwide thing. A guitar player that's playing on Summers and Surrey, I can't leave this out. He's from Italy. And he sent me he played the guitar part from Italy. All right, so that's the thing that's changed, Tom and Doug. Not only are we now doing, that's the good. Let's put it this way, because I talked about the bad and ugly.
Right.
The good is you can now collaborate with people all over the world. And you can sell your music all over the world. I tell people right now, the billions of people is my record store. So even though I'm only getting a fraction of a penny, my audience is much bigger. And if I can go viral, if I can really just find that promotion and marketing niche to make something blow up, I got a whole lot more folk than if I was at Peaches or Plan 9. You know what I'm saying? Or Churchill Records or Mr. Barkey's, where we used to have to take our records down there and hope somebody would buy them. I can put my record out and people in every part of the world will have a chance to buy my music. So everybody, young folk, stay excited. I'm OG, but I feel like a young G, because this music thing can happen all the way through your life.
Thank you, man. We appreciate you. We love you, big bro.
Thank you, Mr. McGee. Y'all have a great one. Thank you,
Dollar Bill.